All right, so just wanted to start this little session off real quick with making sure that everyone's familiar with the yardage books and just how to use them. So I have both the fairway view and the green view, right? So when you open up your books, should see the green view on the top part and the fairway view on the bottom. So let me just direct you down to the bottom part of the fairway view. So you'll see the three blue lines that are in like a half circle. So those are the driving distance lines. So if you look at that chart in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that the three lines for this particular one are 300 yards, 275, and 250. If you are using the short version of the yardage book, those numbers would be 250, 225, and 200. So that's the distances that those lines represent. So you'll pick the one that matches you and kind of use that as a reference from here on out. The bold number next to each of those yardages in the purple circle on the bottom left, that is the fairway width at that length. So you can see it's in the example. So at 250 yards, the fairway width is 46 yards wide. Looking up at the top, so the red circles that start around, they're basically centered around the green. Those are distance from the center of the green, starting at 100, moving back, 100 yards, moving back every 20 yards up to 220. So that's once you can kind of decide, hey, if I hit my drive this far, how much am I going to have in? You can do that pretty quickly. Or, hey, I did hit my drive, I'm next to this tree, this is how much I'm going to have in. And then probably the most important part for this is the bottom right-hand corner in the pink circle. So I set, so the long books are all from the furthest back tee. I don't know what tees you're going to be playing for all of these tournaments, and they're probably going to change day to day as well. So just to make it easy, I set them all for the back tee marker. So if you get there and on that day you're playing from a different tee, you can see the conversion chart for the yardage on the bottom right-hand corner. So if you're on T2, if they've moved you up one tee, just take all those numbers and take 26 yards off of it, right? Because you're 26 yards closer. So you will have to potentially make some math adjustments on the tees. So just be very careful while you're playing to make sure that you are standing on the right tee box, or making sure that we're measuring everything from the right tee box. Otherwise, your yardages will be slightly off. So anyone have questions on that? Does that all make sense? All right. Perfect. So let's continue. So let's go ahead and start going over the Ridge Club. So just because we don't have a ton of time and I don't want to just bore you guys to death with all of this, I'm only going to go over the holes that I think need explaining. So we're not going to go through every hole. So if we don't talk about it, you're welcome to shoot me a text or an email, ask me some questions, give me a call, whatever you need. But for the most part, if I don't go over it, they seem pretty straightforward. So we're just going to go from there. So first hole, pretty short hole. It's only 364 from the very back tee. So we're more than likely going to take less than driver. So you can see in the picture, that little white cross mark with the red and yellow line. That's where ideally I'd like to see golf balls finish up, probably not much further than there, because you'll see the fairway gets pretty narrow. So you're going to take your rangefinder and use the trees on the left to give you kind of a bearing for how far you're going to want to put it down in the fairway. Worst case scenario, if that's even too far, you can lay back farther, just find a yardage that you want into the green, right? You basically get to choose. So that drive would give you about 100 yards left. So if you want more than that, if you want like a full pitching wedge or 9-iron, then you could lay back even farther. So driver, very unlikely. And just play the hole backwards, right? Find a yardage you want into the green and then hit that off the tee to get you there. Pretty basic approach shot. Obviously water long and left, bunkers long, bunkers short and left. So that green little box is going to be the only time we're going, our target shouldn't be anything outside of that box. So favor the front right portion of the green. If they put a pin back left, just call it middle green, get it there, 2-putt, walk away. No reason to go for anything too far back on that corner. So Andrew has played this golf course before. He said the second shot into this green is pretty downhill as well. So find a yardage, commit to it. And it's not a long shot, but it is going to be downhill a little bit. So give yourself a good yardage and just be able to commit to it. Give it some thought. Any questions on one? All right. So now let's move ahead to 3. Second hole is just a par 3, pretty straightforward. So 3 is a pretty short par 5, but gets a little bit tricky. So driver's fine here. The real long hitters, it might narrow up a little bit, but you should be just fine. The second shot, this one is a little bit tricky. So if you look in the picture, you can see, kind of hard to tell, but that is a big tree right in the middle of the fairway. You can see the shadow more prominently than the tree itself. But if you're going to go for it in 2 and not lay up, you must be able to go over the tree. Trying to work the ball around the tree is going to be really difficult. It's only about 80 yards away from the green, so you're going to have some pretty severe curve on it to get it around the tree and then back to the center. So if you're going to go for it, make sure that it's over the tree. So if you don't have the club for it, just go ahead and lay up. Your layup isn't going to be very long. It's probably only going to be 140 to 160 yards for the layup. So just find something that you can just hit that's going to run, right? Because you're essentially going to try to run it underneath the tree into that green box. That way you don't have any tree trouble for that wedge shot. Or if you land short of the tree, right, you're definitely going to have tree trouble there. So try to get it past the tree, but either over or underneath the tree. Again, shaping it around could be pretty dangerous. So just be aware of that. So if you can go over it with your second shot, great. If not, try to go over, under it, lay up to a good yardage. You probably only have 70 yards or less into the green from there. So we'll just we'll take that as it goes and try to get up and down with the wedge. All good there? All right. So fourth hole, you're probably sensing a pattern here. A lot of holes that are going to be less than driver here. Okay. So target line is going to be pretty much the left edge of those fairway bunkers, those 2 fairway bunkers. This fairway does slope right to left pretty aggressively. So hitting it at those bunkers and letting it run back to the center of the fairway will be just fine. So favor the right side of this fairway. I wouldn't hit anything that's going to go further than those bunkers. So just make sure you're looking at your yardage book, find out what yardage and what club you're going to need to hit. Not a long hole. You're going to have at most 120 yards in to this hole if you hit a decent shot. So don't worry about being too aggressive. Don't try to cut off the corner. Just play it out to that spot. Let the fairway bring it back to the center. And you should have a fairly easy shot in. Pretty straightforward green. There is that front left corner. There's a little bit of a false front. So if the pin's anywhere near left, just make sure we're favoring that right side. So right and then middle-ish long for those pins. So if they try to stick a sucker pin in there, just know that the front left edge of that green behind the bunker is gonna fall off a little bit. So it's not quite as big of a green as it looks. All good there? All right. moving on. Fifth hole, less than driver yet again. Fairway narrows up quite a bit at the end at the driver range. So take a look at your yardage book, try to find that widest area of the fairway. Just hit something out there, gonna have about 120, 140 yards in. Again, not a long course, not a lot of really demanding par fours. So let's take advantage of the short, give ourselves a nice club in, and don't try to push it in there just for hitting a couple, like one extra or one less club into the green. This green, you can see bunker and water, short and right. So your target, your finished target, right, should be nowhere in that box with the giant X. So if the pin is short and right or back and right, favor that left or center of the green. You got plenty of room on the left to bail out if you need. That little red line at the front edge of the green, make sure you have that yardage before you pull a club. You essentially want to run that as I can't hit a ball shorter than that line. Because if you do, you have the potential to bring the water into play, right? If that's a potential yardage and you mishit it a little bit and it comes up a little short, let's just get the water out of play. You got plenty of room long and left. So it's a deep green, front to back. So don't even mess with it. So find that yardage, make sure that they're not hitting it short of that. Perfect there. So hole 6, sharp dog leg. Okay. Probably less than driver yet again. Another red line across the edge. That you should find that yardage off of your tee when you get there. You need to at least be past that red line. There should be plenty of room between that line and the end of the fairway. Again, you're probably going to hit less than driver to there, so you should have some pretty decent control over that. But you don't want to leave yourself short of that red line because now you're blocked out from the green. You're going to either have to shape a shot or hit a layup on a fairly short hole, and you probably don't want to do that. So find that is your minimum. It's a little bit uphill into this green. You should be right around 100, 120. And again, pretty straightforward green there. So nothing too crazy to worry about. Let's go ahead and skip ahead to the 9th hole. Another little dog leg where you're going to run out of room. This one might be less than driver. If you want to take driver, it's not super risky, but again, not 100. It's not, I'm not sure it's quite the payoff that you'd be looking for. So I would shoot for about 120, 140 yards in. Just basically anything past that short or that little fairway bunker on the right-hand side is pretty much good. So anywhere from that driving dot to a little bit in front of it. Green is a tricky one, right? I would imagine they're probably going to want to put a pin up there in the middle at least one of the days, in the middle, like front of the green. I mean, unless you're a really big fan of your bunker game, right? Just go for the fattest part of the green, and just take some 2 putts and walk away. So definitely a little tricky green, but you can play it smart. Don't have a lot of club in there. So you should be just fine there. 12th hole. So par 5. And it is a longer par 5. So we're pretty much just calling it a guaranteed layup. Okay. So driver, you're going to try to find that pop bunker just off the tee on the bottom of the screen there. anything to get past that if possible. If not, short of it's fine. But again, it's just going to be a layup anyways. So you don't necessarily need driver. If driver puts you right in that bunker and you don't want to deal with it, hit something less. You might have a little longer layup, but it's not going to be too crazy. It'll probably only be 160, 180 yards to the layup zone. So green box off the tee would be ideal. If you want to go shorter than that, perfectly fine. Layup spot is just past those trees on the left side. There's also some bunkers in those shadows that you probably can't see. You'll see it on your yardage book. But that'll give you max 100. So find a shot between 60 and 100 yards that you really like. Try to lay it up in somewhere in that zone. You do want to favor the left side of this green, just because there's a lot more trouble right. You got a little runoff to the left. You will be hitting a wedge more than likely into this. So it shouldn't be that crazy. But just take that kind of right green side bunker and just assume that that's basically front of the green, right? That way, in case you push it a little bit, at least you're outside of that bunker. So pretty straightforward hole. There's a lot of different ways you can play this. Even though it's a long par 5, you don't need driver because you're going to lay up anyways. So there's no reason to get aggressive off the tee when it's not really necessary. So up to you. 13 looks pretty straightforward, a little tougher than it looks. So little bit tight on the tee shot. So just find a shot that you're committed with, pick a target, smart target, and just commit to it. Not one that you're going to need to really pound a driver down. So just keep it smooth, make sure it's in the fairway. The reason being this green's a little bit, in Andrew's words, wonky. It's got some slopes and some weird tiers in it and stuff. So you want to try to be able to get it in the right section of the green. If you do miss the green, we are going to favor short of the green. There's a lot of tricky lies and up and down scenarios, left, right, and long. So if you're going to favor anything, favor it a little bit short. Bunker's probably still okay as well. Just do not go long of this green. That is the one place we can't miss this one. So short if we can, left and right's medium, long is no bueno. So try to keep that in mind as you play it. Looks pretty straightforward, but it does have some quirks to it. So 15, 16, both of these holes are, again, pretty sharp dog legs. Take a look at your yardage book, find out what yardage it is to the corner. It might not be driver for some of you guys. So this 15th is a par 5. So more than likely layup, not because of its length, just because of the sharp angle, and you might not have the best angle in. So off the tee, again, find the minimum yardage to the corner. You want to get it as deep into the corner as you possibly can. So that left fairway bunker at the end of the fairway is perfectly fine because you're just going to lay up and then now have a wedge in anyways. So don't be afraid to push it a little bit deep into that corner because you want to at least have an angle into the green or into your layup shot. Layup will be super easy. Find a yardage that you want, that you like, hit it right there. Now you have your favorite club into the green. If you do intend on going for it, worst case scenario, right? Just roll it into that front bunker. Try to get as deep into that bunker as you can. Then it's just an up and down for a birdie. I would favor the front side of that green on the if you're going to go for it, just because if you're trying to hit a real long club, trying to really carry that bunker, you've got potential to go long and you don't want to be back there. So bunker's just fine. Although I think for most of you, it's going to be a pretty smart layup. So drive off or get to the corner. It might be tempting you might think, hey, I might be able to cut that corner. Absolutely do not try that. It's tempting from the people who've played it, but it's never going to pan out the way you want. So just deep into the corner, layup. If you don't love the shot, if you feel really confident for it, you can go for it, but really good miss is just in that front bunker. 16, you can see very similar. We're going to play it pretty much the same. This one is more than likely less than driver. Because we have water long, we don't really have that safety net of pushing it super deep into the corner. So we want to be more consistent with our distance control on that one. So again, we have that red line, find that yardage, make sure you get something at least past that. And stopping is kind of deep into that corner, but knowing that there's water behind it. Second shot into the green at that point will be pretty short. So this approach shot isn't as tricky as it could be. But if you're blocked out because you didn't get deep enough into the corner, it could be really tough. So we're going to try to get it past that red line at the very least. Obviously bunker and water left. So we're just going to favor the whole right side of that green. Don't cut the corner. It's in bright red for a reason. Might be tempting, but not worth it in the end. Moving on to 17, fun little island green. So it is likely to be somewhat windy. So I've heard, even though this hole plays only 150 from the back, I've heard it playing up to 190 at some points. So this is a hole that just screams par and get out. So you'll see an orange line and a red line on the screen there. Find the yardages to both of those. Okay, so orange is the low side, like you don't want it to go too much shorter than orange, right? That gives you the fattest part of the green. Your target should not be short of that orange line. The red line is absolutely no chance the club you're hitting can go short of that, right? Front of the green is if you hit one of the poorer shots in your bag, it still won't go. You need it to at least carry that, right? You've got plenty of green long and some runoff long and right. So orange is like the shortest your target will ever be. Red is I couldn't even imagine hitting a short shot that short. So pretty straightforward. Just play it to the back center of the green and just rely on the putter. You're gonna do better off of that than flag hunting on this hole all day long. So 18, pretty cool hole because it gives you a lot of options. So there's a couple different slides for this one. So the tee shot itself, basically, if you want to hit driver and you're a long hitter and you feel like you can carry that bunker from the back tees, it's about a 280 carry just to get over that bunker. So if that's something you feel like you can do, there's enough room up there for you. And I guess even if you get in it, it's just going to force you into a layup anyways, so it's fine. Just knowing that your layup's going to have water all down the right-hand side. If you don't have enough club to get over that bunker, or you don't want to be in it, you might hit less than driver, or maybe your driver puts you there. It's an easy decision. You're just gonna lay up from there. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's not, as you'll see when we go into the green. I would say 99% of you probably aren't going to be going for this green anyways. So kind of gives you some options off the tee. Just make some smart decisions. Make sure you think about it beforehand. So here is the green, your two different options, right? So green is your layup zone. Just find the yardage you like, just like everything else. Work backwards a little bit, find out how far you are to the layup zone, where you want to hit it from, and go from there. Should be a pretty wide area up there, so won't be a long club into that layup. So find a spot, should be able to be just fine from there. If you are going to go for it, your dream scenario should be putting it in that back bunker. Obviously water pretty much surrounding this green, and you're going to have, you know, probably some sort of hybrid into that club if you get it past that bunker. So back edge of the green is probably going to be the target. If it comes up a little bit short, great, it's right in the center of the green, nice and safe. If you absolutely smoke it, it rolls into the back bunker. It's an up and down for birdie out of the bunker. So if you choose to go for it, that would be the best way to go about that. Just know it's a long carry over a lot of water. So if you're at all questioning it, just do not even mess with it. It's an easy layup shot, and then should be a fairly simple wedge in. It's pretty big green, so you have plenty of room for that. But that's so a couple decisions there, but just make sure you're thinking it through using your yardage book, make the right plan. I did forget to go over one thing real quick. So let's go back to the beginning with the yardage books. So I went over the fairway stuff. I didn't go over the green. So if you look at the green view, you'll notice there's a kind of a grid that overlays on top of the green. So each of those blocks, okay, is always going to be 5 yards by 5 yards. So 5 yards deep, 5 yards wide. So in the scenario that you're getting a pin sheet, right, the pins are always going to be measured from the furthest edge of the front green or the furthest right or left edge. So that might not be the case in all greens if you're coming at it from a different angle. If it's measuring from the front edge, but the green cuts in a little bit because there's a bunker there or something, you might not have that much room between the edge of the green and the pin. So use your pin sheet and the yardage book. I would suggest transferring the pins over into your yardage book from the pin sheet, because all that's going to tell you is the distance from the front edge of the green or the left or the right edge of the green. So using this 5 yard block system, you'll be able to tell where the pin is in relation to the actual shape and size of the green versus just how far from the front, how far from the left or the right. Does anyone have questions with that? That could get a little bit tricky. Everyone's okay there? All right. So a lot of tools at your disposal, and I know we went through that pretty quick. I just wanted to make sure that you had some general overview. Again, this is, if I were to play this golf course, this is how I would play it. You are going to have to deal with elements. It's probably going to be fairly cold, a little bit wind, potentially it's out there on the water. So these are ideal shots. Let the scenarios kind of come to you. Make sure you're going through your process, and just play the smart shot, right? Don't need to play safe, right? We want to just play smart. So look at the shots that are going to give you chances to still score, but are going to eliminate the big numbers as much as we can. First tournament of the year, right? It's first time on grass for a lot of us. So just play to your strengths. And if you need to play a safer shot, and then it's fine, right? So smart targets, pick targets to the fat edges of fat areas of the green. Don't necessarily need to go flag hunting. Let the course come to you instead of trying to overpower it. It's not a long course, so take what it gives you. Fairly big greens on a lot of these, but they're probably going to be sloped, and we don't know how fast they're going to be either. So play to places that are going to give you the least amount of stress. Does anyone have any questions of anything I went over? Want me to go over it again? Or anything that you looked through the yardage book yourself and said, I have a question on this? You guys good? You sure? No questions at all?
Brandon.
Yes.
On I forget what hole it was. One of the par fives, like the going in, it's like split. Is there any like is it like elevated at all, or is it like just I forget what hole it is?
The first one?
No. Hole.
5. Oh, I'm sorry. That's par 5. So I believe there's only one par 5 on the front.
It was 15.
15.
Like on the yardage book, the fairway split up.
Yes. Let me see if we can go to that screen. We have the satellite view. Yeah, so you can you see the screen here? So it's, I mean, tough to tell from this view. I would imagine there's maybe a little bit, but it's not like it's going to be, it's not don't believe it's going to be a hazard or anything like that. It just might not be fairway. So yeah, good question. I mean, obviously the left side of that fairway is going to give you a better angle into that green anyways. And if you're laying up, you're not going to have a lot of club into that layup spot anyways. But yeah, good question. It looks like there's a little kind of ravine between where your drive's going to end up and that second fairway. So we're just going to favor the left side on that layup shot, give you a good angle into the green and hit to the widest part. Does look pretty wide, so you should be all right there. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. Anyone else? We've got a couple minutes left on the Zoom. If anyone has any questions.
I have a question on 17.
Okay.
What's that grass behind the green? Is that just rough or is that short stuff?
I believe that's just fairway. It might be some light rough. That's the one downside to the yardage books. Doesn't really give you a clear view on that. It just based off of the picture and the fact that we're coming out of winter, I'm not expecting that to be very thick. So I think it's perfectly safe to be a little bit long of that green. Again, decent size green, but if you're going to have a long club in there because it's windy, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a little long of that green, just because it's better than the alternative of coming up short. It's a tough hole, so just play that smart shot. You shouldn't even really care where the flag is there. Just get it on the dance floor and go get a stress-free par if you can. Anybody else? Good question so far. All right. So if no one has any more questions, that is pretty much it for this. Please utilize Ian tomorrow. He said he's got some time to field some phone calls if you want to go over process goals, mental strategies, anything like that. So if you want to talk to him, please shoot him a text or an email, and he will get you on a schedule. If you don't need to talk to him, we still would love to see some process goals from everybody. So go ahead and put those in your coach now. Remember, process goals, things that you can control, things that are going to help you stay in the moment, stick with the process instead of worrying about the outcome and letting the stress of the tournament or the chimp get in your way. So try to write some of those down so that while we are watching you and reviewing with you after each round, we can talk to you about those goals. So try to get those in before you head down there. And if anyone doesn't have any questions, we will call it there. Awesome. Thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate it. And we will have fun out there. Just, first time back out on the golf course, so just enjoy it. There'll be plenty of tournaments this summer, so just go out there and have some fun. Thanks for hopping on. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.